Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Pegasus, and I'm sipping on some raspberry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you can find additional painting perks. So let's get painting, and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, purple violet, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, Mars black, and deep yellow. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'll be using for some drawing, and then I have 3 brushes. I have a 1/2 inch wide flat bristle brush, a number 10 round synthetic brush, and a number 2 round synthetic brush, and I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like. If you're painting along with me, you'll probably want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to the same type of paint and brushes and all the good stuff in between. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting our background. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are purple, black, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a really nice, soft lavender type of a color that I'll be using for the majority of the background, and then I'm going to use it up at the top and the bottom, and then I'll make it go a little bit lighter in the middle. So I have pre-mixed my colors so you can see where I'm headed. This is the color that I am headed for. How I got to that was I used a whole bunch of my purple, I used a tiny bit of black, and a tiny bit of white. And what I in essence am doing is adding gray to my purple violet color. So what this does is it just kind of tones it down, makes it look a little bit softer, and to me a little bit more angelic of a sort of color. Something I might see up in the clouds. So that's the color that I'm shooting for. You can make yours lighter or darker. You could have a shade of blue if you wanted to. Just make this into whatever you'd like. So I've got my color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to load my brush with this color, and I'm going to be applying it to the top of my canvas in a left to right brush stroke. I'm going to be coming about 1/4 of the way down my canvas with this custom lavender color. And then I'll do the same thing at the bottom of my canvas. So if you come down further or less far, then that's totally okay too. This is just about how far I'm going to go. And I'm going to leave this bottom edge soft, so it's not a firm line in through there. I'm going to do the same thing down at the bottom. So I'm just using this custom lavender. I'm putting a good amount on so I can spread it kind of far as I go through the painting process, and then I'm going to bring it up about 1/4 of the way. And once I've brought it up in that height, I'm going to start introducing white to the color combination. So I've got it going on here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my lavender plus white on my brush. So I have both colors on my brush, lavender and white, and I'm going to get these sections to just kind of blend in with one another. So that way, what's going to happen is I'm going to have a little bit lighter of a section in the middle. I don't want it to go super light. I just want it to be a little bit lighter than the top and the bottom. So that way I've got a different tonal value behind my horse and my clouds in that center area. So I did the same thing down here. I picked up my lavender plus a little bit of my white, and then I just kind of put it on. I can actually, before I blend that, while I've got this color combination fresh on my brush, I can get these two middle sections to blend in if I have enough paint, and then I'll just get these two sections to blend in. If your bottom purple has already dried before you get a chance to blend it in with this middle, this lighter tonal value, you can certainly pick up some more of that original lavender. That'll be up to you if you feel that you need to do that. And then I'm just going to paint in this little section in through here. And again, if yours comes out lighter or darker than mine, or more purple or more gray, it's all right. You get to make this into your own painting. It doesn't have to be exactly as mine. And then I just go back and forth and blend it out a little bit. And when I feel like I'm done, I will be using the same brush for the next step. So if you feel you want to do a second coat, go right ahead. You can let it dry, you can manipulate it a little bit, but when you feel like you're all done, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint our light source and our first layer of our clouds. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are my pre-mixed lavender color that we used, yellow and white. And what I'm going to do, oh, and brown too, a little bit of brown too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a light area in through here. I don't want it to go all the way white because I want to make sure that when I put my beautiful winged horse coming out of the sky, that there's a little bit of a tonal value change. So I want my horse to have some white tips to the wings and the horse to appear on the whiter side. So I can't make the background behind it too white. So I want it to be able to pop out. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker than white so it looks like a light source. And then I'm going to have my clouds. I also want there to look like there's clouds behind my horse. So I'm going to have clouds kind of dissipating away from the light source. So I've got my large bristle brush. First, I'm going to create myself a light kind of golden color. So I've already pre-mixed it. What I've done here is I've taken yellow, white, and just a tiny bit of brown. So what this does is that I'm going to make myself kind of a light golden type of a color. Again, it's not going to be too light. It's not going to be too dark. It's not going to be too brown. It's somewhere in the middle that's just going to add a really pretty light source to the equation. So I'm going to have my beautiful horse a little bit to the right of the center, so I'm going to have my light source coming in through here. So I'm going to put this color on quite heavy back in through here, and then what I'm going to do is as I go towards the edges of it, if you feel that you have too much paint on your brush, just wipe it off. Like I feel like I might have a little bit too much, so I'm just going to wipe it off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to pull these out in kind of a circular type of scrubbing technique. So what this is doing is it's kind of splaying out the beams of light onto the neighboring clouds. So now what I'm going to do, now that I've got that on there, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint to just kind of elevate that center just a little bit lighter. It doesn't have to go again all the way white. I just want to have a couple of different values in here so it's not just one solid color. So I just picked up a little bit of white to add that into the equation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start incorporating my lavender plus these colors. So without washing my brush, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of my lavender and a little bit of that custom tan, goldish tan that we've created, and then I just start adding this into the equation. So again, what this is doing, I'm just making sure that I have a good background that is fully painted. I can work all of these kind of cloud type of motions away from that light source, so it ends up being lighter here and then just kind of splaying out. So I'm just going to kind of keep with this thought process to create these additional areas. And you don't have to go in the same exact area as you did the first time. You can make some areas lighter or darker. Right now I'm just kind of switching back and forth between my lavender and my golden color, so that way I've got some light spots and some dark spots. And when I get into this mid-range or this middle area, I don't want it to necessarily go too dark. I actually just picked up a little bit more white so I could lighten this up just a little bit. I like these colors to intermingle, so I'm just gonna kind of keep adding until I feel like I've got the way that I want. I don't need to do too much underneath, but when I'm going into this lighter section, I am mindful that I don't want it to go to all the darkness that I have up here. So I just picked up my light source color, my lavender plus white, so I can in essence kind of utilize that same color that we had initially in that middle range, plus that little bit of the golden color. And again, yours doesn't have to be exactly as mine. If you feel that you want to do it lighter or darker, that's going to be up to you. I'm just looking for something that's got this soft feel to it, and that I'm carrying these colors all throughout this mid-range. So we've got some of the lavender represented, as well as the colors from the light source. And then that's looking pretty good to me. Yeah, you can certainly keep fiddling with it as much as you want. I'm enjoying the way that this is looking on my end. I might let it dry, and if I feel like I have a couple little tweaks to do, I'll do that. But I'm not really concerned about down here just yet, because we're going to be adding the horse, and then there's going to be a lot of clouds in front of the horse. So I would just kind of come down about this far, and then if there's any additional stuff that you want to put on after we put the horse there, then you can certainly do that. And then we're going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can fiddle with it as much as you want. And again, I'm just going back and forth between my white, my lavender, and my golden color to get all this fluffiness into my clouds. And then I will put this large brush away, take out my piece of chalk, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our horse. I'm going to be using my chalk. You could certainly use any kind of drawing utensil that works for you, but I'll be using my chalk. I do recommend before you start the step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long drying sipping break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry, or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So what I'm going to be doing is guiding you through a series of basic shapes that we will turn into a horse. So I'm going to be starting with an oval shape for the body of my horse. I'm going to be having my horse a little bit to the right of the center of my canvas. It'll be emerging from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself left to right the center of my canvas and up and down the center of my canvas. And then what I'm going to do, this is about where the center of my canvas is, I'm going to come down from that about an inch. That's going to be my first marker that I make. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the right of that about 3.5 inches. And that's going to make my mark in through there. So you may be working on a different canvas that might have, and you want yours a little bit different proportions. So if this was half your canvas, if you split the difference between here and here, a little bit to the left would give you a ratio similar to mine. And then I'm going to make a mark at the top and the bottom of this oval, which is going to be about a little bit more shorter than this. So if this is 3.5 inches, I'm going to do my height is going to be about 3 inches. So I'll find myself the middle of here, and then I'm going to go up about 1.5 inches and down about 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect these with an oval type of a shape. So yours might end up a little bit different than mine. It's okay if you are going for the same style of horse as I'm doing, just making it a little bit more lengthy than it is tall will give you this type of oval kind of a shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're just using this to start the process. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my neck and my head on. So I'm going to be doing this with a kind of a tall oval type of a section. So I want my horse to look like it's kind of leaning as it's coming out of the clouds. So I'm going to have my head and my neck kind of at an angle in through here. So however tall you have this, so for me, mine is about 3 inches. You can use a brush or something else as a measuring tool to see how high you did this. And then what you're going to do is go up from the center of that oval to that same height. Give yourself a little bit of a marker. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here to the sides of my body with a kind of a leaning type of oval, or it's the top of it's going to be an oval. So I'm going to take from here, it's only going to be about 1.25 inches wide. I don't have it very wide at all. I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over in a curved way and then bring it down to almost to my body, maybe about 1/4 inch away from my body. And then I'm going to bring it out in a little bit of a curved line to meet my body in through there. On the right hand side, I'm going to do the same thing, only it's going to land, I'm going to do it at the same angle as this, it's going to land right about here, and then I've got to get it to curve into the exterior part of the body. So here we go, I'm going to start up and through here, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a curve, and then as I come right about at this height where this one started to curve, this is where it'll curve out into the side of the body, something like that. So that gives us our start of our head and our body. I'm going to give myself a couple of little ears. I don't need to do much to these ears. I just kind of want to mark them off, just giving myself some kind of placement for them. I also want to tell myself that there's going to be an eye and a nostril bump on this left hand side. So about 1/3 of the way down, I'm going to just give myself a little tiny bump in through there, and then about another 1/3 of the way down, I'll give myself another little bump in through there. So that just tells me when I go through that painting process, don't forget your eye and your nostril, so that'll help me through that. So now I'm going to put some legs on. These legs are going to be in motion. They're really going to have a lot of bend and angle to them. I'm going to start with the rear. It'll be the horse's rear right leg, but it'll be the leg to the left for us. I'm going to bring, I'm not going to do feet or anything like that. I'm going to stop the legs about at the knees, or maybe just a little bit past the knees. So if this is the center of my oval, I'm going to come to the left of that just a little bit, maybe 1/4 inch, something like that. And then I'm going to come up this side, somewhere in this vicinity is where the back of that leg is going to come out. This is going to be my thigh, like this, and then I'm going to have just a little bit of the inset of the leg coming down in through here. Again, it's going to look a little funky at the moment just because it's got a lot of development to go. We'll just call it that. It's going to be up higher in the body, but this is just going to be our starting place to draw. So the next leg is going to come out in through here. So I'm going to go to the right of this, maybe about 1/2 inch, something like that. And then I'll go to the right of that about, I would say, 1/2 to 3/4 inch. This is going to give me my front right leg of the horse, but it's to the left for us, so something like that. I want to do the other back leg, which is going to come to the side of here. So I'm going to travel up, maybe about another 1/2 inch. Going to give myself a curved line that's going to meet there. And then I just have a little sliver of a back leg of the knee portion, or the back little portion in through here of that leg. And again, we're going to cut this off with some clouds later, and then I just have a front leg over here. So this one is going to come, it's almost touching this mark here, so just a little tiny bit up like that, and then you can go almost, I would say, maybe about another 3/4 inch up in through there, and then this is going to just kind of come down like a little thigh area, and then it's going to kind of come down in this vicinity and then just bend a little bit. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect right now. We'll correct it and make it look better when we paint it. But that is all I'm going to do for my outline of my horse. We'll put wings and manes and all that good stuff on later. So you can put your chalk away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our horse and its wings. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are brown, yellow, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a nice tan color that we'll be using for the base coat of the horse and the wings. So I've already pre-mixed it, the tan color that I'm going for. So this is the color that we used for the light source. We're using the same colors to create the tan that we did this golden yellow color, but I'm using more brown. So how I got to that was I used brown, a little bit of yellow, and white. And I, in essence, made tan with a little bit of the yellow in it, so it gave it, again, a nice richer hue to it than if it was just the brown and the yellow. So that's the color that I'm going for. You could certainly make your horse any color that you like, but this is what I'm going to be using for the base coat. And I'm not going to really do anything fancy when it comes to painting in the body, because we're going to be adding all kinds of highlights and shadows to give contour to the body and make it look much more realistic than it does now. The only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down when it comes to this little area over on this left hand side of the face, so that way I can bump out a little area for the eye and a little area for the nostril. And if it goes a little bit bigger on you, then so be it. You can certainly correct it with whatever needs to happen. And then when I go, of course, to do the ears, I'll be a little bit more mindful of those. So again, just kind of putting a layer of paint on there. They don't have to be perfect. You can we're just really, most of the ears are going to be covered up by the long hair of the mane anyway. So we just need to have that kind of silhouette in place. So when we do put the rest of the details on, we've got that area to, or that, you know, the proper shape of the flying horse. And then I'm just going to, of course, come all the way down in through here. I'm going to go ahead and paint the legs the same color. So again, we're not going for any detail right now, just going for a base coat, which is going to allow us to paint all of the details on top of it. And it'll allow us to give these legs and everything a lot of shape. So I am going to slow down right here, because I know that I've got this leg is going to be in front of that leg, and I don't really want to lose my thoughts as to where I want one versus the other. So when I do this, I will leave a little bit of my chalk mark showing between these two legs in through here. I don't need to save a lot, just a little bit, so that way when I do go to paint them later, I will have that information to work with. Same thing with this little piece of a leg down in through here. Just kind of, I'll put the leg on, but I'll also leave a little bit of my the chalk mark between the two legs, just so I have that as reference later on. And again, if anything goes wrong on these legs, we get to disguise it with clouds. So I'm not fearful when it comes to doing this, because I know that we have that element later that we'll be able to utilize to our advantage if anything goes wrong during this process. So that's a wonderful thing about painting too, is you get to add things to hide things if needed, which is always fun. And then I'm just bringing this down into here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the base coat for my wings, and I really want my wings to have a ton of movement to them, and I want them to be really airy and have a lot of movement to them. So what I'm going to do is I want them coming out the back, or to appear to be coming out the back. So I'm going to go right above this little shoulder area. That's where the top part of my wing is going to be, and right about halfway down this shoulder is where the bottom part is going to be. And then on the left side, I've got it coming out in through here. So again, where it meets the body, if you want to leave yourself a little visual space between the wing and the body, that'll help you through the painting process as well. And then I'm going to come down this rear end part a little bit in through here. That's where it's going to come out down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself the kind of a top outline for the structure of the wing, and I've got these wings at different angles, so they don't have to be exactly the same. So I'm going to come out from here, and then I'm going to bring it up in this curved way up in through here, just a little bit past the head, and then I'm going to start to bring some light airiness to the edges, as if they're kind of wings. They're feathery wings. So what I'm going to also do down at the bottom is I'm going to give myself the thought process of this structure. So I'm going to have them kind of shorter down in through here, and then as I come up in through here, I've got these really long, airy type of wings. Yours can be longer or shorter than mine. I am allowing for some of that background to show through, so that way when we go to put all the details on, they'll appear to have, you'll be able to see through them and allow you to see those background colors. Again, that'll add more dimension to them and allow them to look more airy and angelic. So just feel free to make these into whatever style of wings that you'd like. And then on this side, this one's going to be a real long one. So I still needed to make sense with that one, so you don't want it to be too out of proportion, but this one's going to be kind of laying flatter. So I'm going to bring this one kind of out in this left hand direction and then just kind of bump it up and bring it up into this kind of flicked up kind of end of a feather. So something like that. And then these guys are going to just kind of come out in this direction. I'm going to put some short ones on down in through here. So just bringing these little shorter ones in through here. And then I'll put some longer ones kind of coming in this direction. And of course, yours can be different from mine. You can have yours in, again, whatever length. Maybe you even do a different color for your wings. But this is what I'm choosing to do. Again, I'm leaving that little bit of a space between the horse and the actual wings, so that way when I go to do the details, I'll have that information. And then we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this base coat for your horse and your wings, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the horse's head. I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going to be using black, brown, white, and maybe my tan, and I might use some of that gold and yellow color too, but I'll call them out as I use them. So what I'm in essence going to do is I'm going to be doing my dark areas, which are going to be my eyes, my nostrils, and the insides of the ears, as well as kind of an outline for the exterior of the face. I'll put those dark areas in first, and then we'll build our way towards the light areas, which are going to be like the bridge of the nose, maybe some little highlights on up above the eyes for the eye socket bones up in through there. And then by the time we're done, we'll be magically have some good shape on our horse's face. So the key here is I'm never going to use a lot of paint on my brush, and I'm going to allow myself to put the paint on, let it dry, and then just kind of keep adding layers to build my way towards some good form on this horse's face. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow on the side of my horse's face, so we can at least have how wide we're going to want the head. So I put brown, black, and a touch of white paint on my brush. What I'm going to do is from this outside edge of the head, I'm going to come down just a little bit to the right, so somewhere in through here, and I'm just giving myself a faint little kind of diagonal line that's going to give me the edge of my horse's head. And then right when I come down about here, which would be where this where the wing, I guess, kind of goes, that's going to be the bottom part of my face in through here. I bumped this out a little bit when I was doing my nostril, which is working out really well for me. But if you want to bump yours out a little bit more in through here, you certainly can, or you might have a little bit more narrow of a nose than I do. Whatever works is totally fine. And then I'm going to put a little bit more black and water on my brush to give myself a tiny mouth while I'm down here. So I have a little bit of black and brown and a little bit of water on my brush. This is just giving me a nice dark area down at the bottom of the muzzle. While I'm here with this dark color, I'm going to do my nostrils. So I have this bump right here, which is a nostril that I'm going to put right in through here. I'm putting my darkness kind of up at the top, and horses have really big nostrils that they're really dark on the inside, and then what happens is they kind of fade out into the skin as they're coming out into the face. So that's what I like to do. I did it pretty dark up at the top, and then I just faded it into the skin underneath. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. So a little black and brown on my brush with a tiny bit of water. I'm going to go at the same height over here, really close to the edge of my muzzle. I'll put it pretty dark up at the top. I think I need a little more black on on my brush to just get that darkness up in through there. And then I will kind of bring it down and let it fade into the muzzle fur. So you can also just add a little bit of water, very little bit of paint on your brush will help you accomplish this. So that's working out pretty good for me. I'm going to go ahead and put some eyes in place too. So my eyes are going to be where this bump is, right in through here. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a black area in through here for the eye. And then I like to have kind of like a soft edges around my eyes, so I'm just using a little tiny bit of paint, giving myself a little soft edge. I'm going to go directly to the right of that, which is going to be over in through here, very close to the edge of my head, but you don't have to bring it all the way to the edge of the head. And this one on the right, we're going to see a little bit more of it than we do of the one on the left, but I might bring the one on the left up a little bit. I might have made it a little bit smaller than I wanted to. So I'm just putting a teeny tiny bit of an eye and then maybe pulling this down in the right hand crook down that face a little bit. I think I'm going to put a little bit more black on this left eye up in through here. Just get this a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. That was a little bit too small for me. There we go, that works out. And then now that I've got that on there, we'll put details on them in a minute, but right now I want to travel on to my other dark areas, which is going to be inside my ears. So again, black and brown. I'm just going to kind of, with water, I'm tapping in the little darkness on the inside of the ears, little darkness on the inside of the ears, and you can really make this as light or as dark as you want, totally up to you. I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown too, to get maybe a little bit more brownish on the outside of these ears, and then maybe a little bit more black on the inside, just to give them a little bit more dimension. Yeah, there we go. A little bit darker on the inside there. So I'm also going to put a tiny bit of a shadow at the top of my head, because I know I'm going to have some of the mane up on the top of the head. So I'm just going to rub in a little bit of watered down black and brown up at the top of the head. So this is going to give me like a shadow underneath the mane hair that I'm going to be putting on later. So that was just a little bit of black and brown, and I rubbed it out so that way I'll have a little bit of a shadow when I go to put the long furs on later. I'm going to do the same thing on the edge of the head, so, or the edge of the neck right in through here. So a little bit of black and brown on my brush to give myself a better edge of the face and to give it a little bit of a shadow underneath it. So again, black and brown with a little bit of water. That's going to help me to just kind of pull it out and blend it in with that neighboring color. We'll be adding more on here later. I just wanted to make sure that I had a good shadow established there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start kind of adding dimensional elements to the face. So I'm going to put a little bit of contour underneath the eyes. I'll put a little bit of darkness underneath the muzzle, and then I'm going to bring some lighter shades into here. So I'm washing and drying my brush, and I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of brown paint. This is going to help me to have a little bit of a contour on the side of the face in through here. So just a little bit of brown, not much. And again, less is more. You can always add more later. This is just going to allow you to keep control as you're doing this. So that'll work there. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom side of the nose in through here. So a little bit of brown on my brush. And now that I've got that established, I'll start adding my lighter stuff. So I'm going to be picking up, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my tan plus white on my brush. This is going to give me my highlights over my eyes. This will give me my little, I like to call them eyebrow bones, but it's the sockets from where the eyes sit. So just a little highlight with my tan plus white. This is the original tan that I used on the horse. I'm also going to do that down the muzzle. So tan plus a little bit of white. And again, this is just kind of bumping up or bringing a little bit of brightness to the muzzle or to areas that I feel that are necessary to pop out a little bit more. So if I want this front of the face to pop out a little bit more, I want it to be lighter than whatever the side of the face is. And then I just kind of blend it out so I can have a nice transition from one area to the other. And I'm just kind of blending this out. I think I want a little bit more up on top of these eyes and through here. You could also put a little twinkle in the eye while you have that light color on your brush, so that works. I'm going to put a little bit more white on the tip of the nose, so I just picked up a tiny bit of white, put a little bit of white on the tip of the nose so that sticks out even more. You can even put little highlights on the back side of the nostrils. One there, and then, well, I don't really have much on this side, but a little bit there if you wanted to. That gives you just the contour of that. And then I would just kind of keep playing with it. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of my golden yellow too. So I just picked up some of the color that we used in the background for the light source, which is that light yellowish color. And this you can just kind of put that a little bit in that muzzle too if you wanted to. So whatever colors are really speaking to you, once you've got the highlights and the shadows on, if you want to pull in a little bit different of a color, if you want one area to be a little bit lighter than the other or a little bit darker, maybe you're wanting this to resemble a horse that you know, so you could certainly, if you wanted to put a mark on the forehead or whatever works for you, is totally fine. And then let it dry for a minute, and if you want to do any little tweaks to it, feel free to do so. We're going to use this same brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our horse's body and the legs. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, tan, and white. And I'm going to approach it similarly to how I did the face, which is I'm going to add my dark areas first, and then I'll build my way to the light areas. This is going to add definition between our legs. It'll help to add a little bit of muscular structure on that front chest of the horse, and also help us to define where the neck goes versus the side of the horse. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black and brown on my brush, and again, don't need much, and you can use a little bit of water on your brush as well to help guide you through these areas. So I'm going to kind of outline some of the key points down in through here, so it'll help to guide us through our painting transition. So I've got the bottom of the belly right in through here, so I can kind of just outline that right into my horse, into this back leg, about halfway between the edge and the inside edge and the exterior edge, and I'm just bringing it up in a similar curve like that. I'm going to do the same thing for the belly area underneath this arm in through here. So you can kind of imagine this to be traveling right about in through here, and then it ends up in the little crook here. So, and you can go just past that little crook as well. So I'm going to give myself another kind of arcing line in through there. I'm going to go ahead, reload my brush with a little bit of black and brown and water. And again, you don't need a lot, just something to guide you through this process. I'm going to, this is my front leg in through here, so I want there to be the evidence of some nice muscle in through there. So I'm going to take it from this corner in through here and bring it up in a diagonal type of a way. And again, I'm just giving myself some guides right now. I don't need to do anything fancy. And then from this corner, I'm going to give it an opposing kind of arc. So it's going to arc kind of towards that direction in through there. And I can also give myself a little bit of an idea of where I want the muscular structure to be on this side, even though this is kind of the chest area in through here, and this leg kind of hides behind that chest area. You can still, there's some big muscles in through here, so you can certainly give yourself a little bit of a guide in through there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some real, we need the neck too. So my neck is going to kind of come in a similar diagonal to what this is doing here. So I want it to come out from this side of the face in through here, and I'm just going to bring this down kind of in a diagonal type of a way down in through here. Again, just to give myself a guide to follow. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my dark stuff. My darkest colors are going to be on these back legs, on the inside corners of them. So I'm going to put a little bit of black paint on my brush, again with a little bit of water, and I'm going to take my black paint and I'm going to put it in these little crevices in through here, and then I will fade it out into the rest of that leg. So if you've got a ton of paint on your brush and it doesn't fade well for you or blend well, you can certainly add a little bit of water onto your brush, or you can pull in some of that tan from the body color. So I'm just adding a little bit of the black plus a little bit of water just to kind of fade this out. Make sure that I've got some nice darkness under here, but not it doesn't need to go all the way black, but it can be the darkest where it goes into that little crevice. I also know I want a little bit of darkness on this leg down in through here, so I'm just using the remnants on my brush to make sure that this whole back leg kind of has a little bit of darkness to it. And then same thing with this one in through here. So I'm just adding, again, a little bit of water on my brush to get the bottom of this a little bit darker. Doesn't have to be a lot darker, just a little bit will do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some shadowy areas in the rest of the chest, but I don't need it to be as dark as in through there. So I'm going to add more brown on my brush plus a tiny bit of black and white. So the ratio to black versus brown, I have more brown on my brush right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a dark area on this leg in through here. This is going to be kind of the inside part of the leg. So something like this. And again, I'm not going as dark as I went in through here. So again, it's more brown than black. And then I'm going to put some I think I want a little bit more darkness on the inside of this leg in through here. So it's just a little, that brown is going to help me out in through here. So we've got some structure of the knee and stuff, so that'll work in through there. And I'm going to use this same color combination to add some darkness and muscular information in the chest. So again, more brown than black, and I'm just using it and rubbing it up in through this chest area. You might feel that you want yours to go darker than mine or lighter than mine, whatever works for you, but I always encourage you to just less is more. You don't need a lot of paint on your brush. The water will help, or a liquid medium will help to spread out the paint. So as you're going through this process, you can work it into that neighboring tan color by just using the fluidity of it. I'm going to pick up some of my tan right now in order to make sure that this blends out pretty well on these sides. So wherever you want it to fully kind of blend out into the tan, you can just pick up that color. We're going to have a highlight on that neck in a minute, so I will be utilizing that in a minute as well. But right now, just kind of going for some nice muscles on the inside of the chest, and you can keep it. You can keep. I think I lost my little line in through here. You can keep kind of elevating it. I want to make this little line a little bit darker in through there. I lost that along the way, so just elevated that back up with a little bit of black and brown and a little bit of water, just to make sure that we have that information of that section of the body, and then just maybe making this a little bit darker. And I just kind of keep, working where I feel that those muscles would be. I feel like this might want to be a little bit darker in through here. Before I start working into the light, I just want to make sure that I've got all of my dark areas done and that they kind of transcend into that mid-tone. I just added a little bit of water on my brush so I can get a little bit of darkness on the side of this leg, but without going really dark. Just something that's going to give me a little bit of contour shape to it. And then maybe a touch of my tan back. This might have been a little bit too aggressive in through there. So I just kind of keep tweaking it until I feel that it's working. So this is the upper part of the front leg here. This is the side, the inside part. So those are looking pretty good. I'm going to start adding, this is just water to get rid of my chalk right now. I'm going to start adding a little bit of brightness too. But first what I'm going to do, I think I want a little bit more shadow kind of coming up the edge of this body. So again, just black, I used a little bit more brown and water and a touch of black on my brush just to get this belly area to kind of make sure that I feel the shadow underneath it. So just bringing this so we don't just have a firm line at the bottom of that belly. We've also got the shadow or the contour coming up, and maybe a little bit more in the back side of this leg in through here too. So again, I just kind of keep tweaking that darkness. So if it's not showing enough of the contour, if I'm missing the definition, like I feel like I'm missing the definition in through here, I just darkened it a little bit, so that way visually I can detect that this is going underneath that horse. And that's how I just kind of keep approaching it. I just keep building it until I feel it's blended enough and I've got enough contrast. I just picked up some of my tan to get this section to blend up into the main body. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding some highlights to it. I just want to make sure that this is blended as much as I want it to be before I start moving into those highlight areas. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to pick up some of my tan right now just to make sure that this blends a little bit better. And then that's good. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to start adding my highlights. So I'm going to start with white paint, and I'm going to have highlights on this side of the body, on the neck, and on the back of the horse, as well as the edges of my legs, because my light source is over on that side. So I want contour highlights to show the shape of the horse, and then highlights from my light source. So a little bit of white is where I'm starting. I'll start with my neck. So I'm going to put a little bit right underneath that mouth, and then just pull this down right along that line, just so we're going to kind of get rid of that line. It was just a guide. Now I'm going to just put a little bit more water on my brush to just kind of blend this out just a little bit so it blends out into my tan. So that works for me. I'm going to do the same thing on this right hand side over here. So I just picked up some white paint, and I'm going to put a nice highlight over here on the right side of the body like that. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of water and blend it into the neighboring tan. So if you feel that it's not blending the way that you want, you just pick up some of that tan. So I feel like I'm blending pretty good, but I could use a little bit of help. So my help is going to come in the form of that tan. I just picked it up so I could get it to make sure that it blends as much as I want it to. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit more white. I'm going to do the back. So I'm going to do a big highlight on this butt, the top of the back butt area and through here. And then I want it to look like it's got a lot of shape to it. So I'm going to bring this down onto a good amount of the horse's side in through here, and just make sure that it blends in with all the neighboring areas. I'm picking up some of my tan right now just to make sure that I've got my blend going the way that I want. And you can of course keep elevating it to whatever brightness that you want, but as long as these parts look like they belong together and they work together, that's perfect. And then the other highlights are going to be pretty easier because they're smaller. So I'm going to do a little, almost outlining the edge of the legs. So a little bit of white on my brush. Going to just give myself kind of the outside edge to this leg in through here. Maybe a little bit, I don't know if that's the knee. This is going to get hidden with my clouds. I'm going to have some in through here, maybe a little highlight on the inside of this back leg, because that's the back side of the horse that is the closest to your light source. So you can just kind of outline it a little bit, something like that. Maybe a little bit on the inside of here. So you can have a shadow right next to a highlight depending on how that where that light source is. And then of course I'll do a little bit on this back side. I'm going to have the tail is going to be on this back side too, so that might be hiding part of the horse's the highlight for the horse's body, but that's looking pretty good. And same thing up here. I don't really need highlights on my face because I'm going to have the mane is going to be covering it. But that's about it. I'm going to just kind of let it dry for a minute, see if I want to do any adjusting, like if I want to bump up a highlight or anything, I can certainly do that. And then we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you got this done, you can put this small brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the mane and the tail. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, tan, white, and maybe that light yellow color that we had too. Of course, you could have your mane and tail, whatever color that you'd like, but I'm going to go for something that's very similar to the color of the wings and the color of the horse. So how I'm going to do this, again, I'm going to be working from dark to light, and I'm just going to be adding some very free-flowing strands of hair for both of these structures. So I'm going to have my tail, the evidence of the top of my tail is going to come up in through here. I want it behind the wing because to me the wing is laying or coming out from like the back shoulder blade type of area. So I'm going to have my tail kind of sticking up behind that and then just kind of flowing down in through here. And then I'm going to have a couple of straggler pieces of the mane kind of coming down in front of the face, and then it's just going to be free flowing all throughout there and behind my wing because I feel like my wing would be in front of it. Of course you could have yours flowing whatever way you want, but that's the way I'm seeing it. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush with a little bit of water on my brush. So this is going to put the dark strands of hair in first, and then we'll build our way to the light. So I want some darkness on the back side of the neck of the horse. So I have black and brown, maybe a little bit more black on my brush. I had quite a bit of water there. A little bit of black and brown, just kind of outlining the back of the head or the back of the neck. So this is going to make it stand out. And I don't want this to be really, really dark. I just want this darkness that I'm putting on right now to give me the evidence of maybe some little shadow pieces underneath the vibrant colors or the lighter colors that I'm going to be putting in a minute. So I don't even need these to be very long. I can put some in front of the face and through here. So I just picked up a little bit more. So maybe I can have a couple of pieces coming down the face and through here. And again, not much on my brush at all. I can't stress that enough. Just a teeny tiny bit so we can get the evidence of just little bits of shadows here and there in between those strands of the hair. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my tail. So I'm going to have my tail again coming up in this back area in through here. So I'm really also telling the motion of the hair at this point. So this is giving the visual cues to the viewer as to what this particular area of hair is doing. So it's coming up and then it's going to be curling back down. So something like this, we'll start that. And I'm going to do the same thing underneath here. I'm going to probably put the highest concentration of darkness underneath here because I want this to look like it's kind of the bottom side or the underside of the tail. So I just put a little bit more brown. I might pick up a little bit more black too. I want this tail to be really long and flowing, but again, it's going to be a lighter color in the long run. I just really want to add this bit of darkness to get it to separate away from my body and my wing, and also to give it that little bit of look from the shadows underneath. So that's going to start that for me. Now I'm going to just build my way to the light. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up some of my tan and a little bit of white on my brush. So I have tan and white, and this is going to just start giving me the information as to where I want this to go. So that's good. That's not light enough for me. I'm adding a bit more white to the equation. I don't need it to be all white, which is why I like to use the multi-colors on my brush at the same time, but I want to be able to, I want it to look as light. I really want it to look like kind of a white mane, so I want to make sure that I have incorporated enough white to make my eye happy. And I'm also going to pick up a little bit of that golden color, the yellow, the light yellow that we had. So right now I've got light yellow and white on my brush to give me the motion, the more dominant kind of pieces of the hair coming out in through here. And I'm having mine with a little bit of wave. I'm going to put a little bit in front of the ears as well, to give it this kind of illusion that it's coming in front of the face with these little straggler pieces. And you might find that you want yours with a lot more movement. I just picked up some more white to give myself, and you can see I'm going slow. I'm purposely putting these pieces of hair where I want them to go. I'm not going too fast. Sometimes I really go faster than I should, but right now I'm kind of slowing down so I can get the motion the way that I want without overdoing it. I have a tendency to overdo hair and stuff, so I have to slow down to consciously be mindful of what I'm doing. I'm going to put a couple of little pieces coming in through here, and again, you could certainly use your smaller brush if you wanted to. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white now, and I'm just going to add these little pops of brightness, these little tiny pieces here and there, and then I'll put a little bit more back in through here so you can really see. Now I'm just picking up white to get these final bright pieces. And if you bump into your wing, it's okay. We're going to put the wing back on top of it in a little bit, so don't fear that. And if you've covered up all of your light source at this point, don't worry about that either. We still got the glow around the edges. It all works out. It's a beautiful horse. It can have as much movement, or it can take up as much space as you want it to. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some of this lightness in the tail. So again, I'm picking up that golden, that light yellow color plus white to add some lightness to the edge of this tail as it's flipping over and going on the other side of the wing, something like that, and intermingling this lightness with the darkness, picking up a tiny bit of white paint to give myself some little edges to the tail in that direction. Yeah, that's looking pretty. And then I'll do the same thing down in through here. So a combination of that. I kind of dropped the tan because I was digging the light yellow and the white as my color combination. When I get down to this part in through here, I'm going to pull these out a lot farther, but I'm just kind of getting them in motion here. And then you can also pull a couple into the dark area if you want to, but I'm going to just kind of, let's see, how far down do I want this to go? I think I want this to go really kind of bringing lots of movement into this tail. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to put some more white on it. And, you know, the funness of the tail part is I can make it as long as I want, whereas these guys, I kind of had to control myself. But we've got lots of, like I said, clouds and all kinds of stuff that's going to help to make this, you know, even fuller if you want it to be. So once you've got this done, I'm thinking that that's pretty good for mine, but I might add a little bit more. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like when it dries. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got your mane and your tail done, you can wash and dry your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our wings. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, tan, light yellow, and white. And how I'm going to do this is how I've approached every other step on this on this painting, which is to go from the dark to the light. So I want to have some dark areas underneath the kind of the bridge of the wings where they meet the back. So I'm going to have some darkness underneath here, and then I'll have my feathers getting lighter and lighter as they go towards the tips, and I'll put a nice light edge on the top of the wing also, again, to indicate where that light source is coming from. So I'm going to start in my darker areas in through here with a tiny bit of black and brown and a little bit of water on my brush. You guys are probably getting used to that color combination, black, brown, and a little bit of water. It's great for shadow making and all that good stuff. So when I do these shadows underneath here, I'm going to keep it a little bit away from the edge, the top edge of my wing, again, because I know I'm going to be putting a highlight on there. And when I do everything on these wings, I'm going to, in my head, assume that all the feathers are going to be built off of this structure, this top structure in through here. So when I go to move my brush away from that area, that's the direction I'm thinking they're growing or coming from here. So they're all going to be flowing out of that area in through there. So I've got my black, brown with a little bit of white water on my brush. I'm going to make this area nice and dark underneath here as it's meeting the horse, and I'm going to do the same thing over in through here. So just kind of pushing it up into that little dark area, and then I will get it to kind of pull out and bring it out. Again, I'm staying away from those edges, kind of pulling it out in this direction as it's still wet on my brush, something like this, and I can even get it to fade out a little bit. I'll do the same thing over in through here. So just kind of pull it out and towards the direction of those wings, or of the feathers, I should say, and something like this. I'm going to elevate that little inside crook in a second, but just getting this in the direction that I want it to flow as it's going towards the edges of the wings. So that's looking pretty good. It's giving me some nice kind of dimensional element in through here. I've got some nice darkness down underneath again, and I haven't done anything other than right now I'm just using the remnants on my brush as I'm working my way through these shadowy areas. Now I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more black paint without washing my brush. I really want this little crook in through here to be pretty dark, so I just put a little bit more black on my brush to accentuate that little area in through there. So just a tiny bit of black and just accentuating just this little tiny bit of an area in through here, which is going to help pull it apart or get it to look like it's got more depth in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush. So that's getting me enough darkness right in through there. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to start adding my lighter areas into these feathers. So I definitely am going to pick up some of my tan, but the first highlight color I'm going to use is my light yellow. So I have tan plus light yellow. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building my way towards the tips of those feathers. So again, I'm just kind of following the footprint that I already did. You can certainly add more little pieces if you want to. You don't have to do them exactly on the same spot that you did the first time. So right now I have tan plus my light yellow on my brush, and of course I'm using them both at the same time so I can get this multi-tone aspect to these wings. If I was to just use one color, it might look a little bit flat, and as I'm building my way towards the lightness, using both of these colors at the same time helps me to transition from this darkness to the lightness that I'm seeking. So again, I have tan plus the light yellow on my brush, and I'm just kind of bringing this in the direction that I want these feathers to kind of flow in, and I'm just going to keep reloading my brush with that color combination, making sure that everything looks like I've got it painted in the amount that I want, and that this lighter color is starting to emerge at the edges of these wings. And again, yours can be of a different kind of color palette than mine. Maybe you want to have pink wings on your beautiful flying horse. You can certainly have it into whatever you'd like. And then once you've got that lighter airiness to it, now I'm going to start using my light yellow plus white on my brush. And now you're going to start seeing I'm going to go closer and closer to the edges of these feathers, and this is going to start showing the glow from the light source on the other side. So again, I'm just using white plus my light yellow, and you can pull them out even further than your original footprint, and again, that's going to show even more vibrancy to the edges of them. And again, I'm using white plus my light yellow at this point, and just giving myself some beautiful movement to the edges of these wings, and as much as you want or as little as you want. You'll find your comfort, and you'll find your visual preference as you go through this type of process, and you might want it to be way more bold and fuller than mine. It's going to be whatever is pleasing to you. So again, just white and my light yellow if you want. I think I want a little more white on these tips in through here. And again, I'm just considering everything to be growing or coming out in the direction of that this part in through here. And let's see, this is looking pretty good. Making sure I've got enough on here. I'm going to put a bright highlight on the top of my wing in a second, up and through here, but just making sure I've got this in the direction I want. I'm thinking this is looking pretty good. I'd like to take a ride on this horse right now, so I'd take me off into a magical place. So I just picked up some white and my gold and my light yellow color, and I'm just putting this nice bright highlight at the top of these wings in through here to kind of outline it, and to also make sure that it is setting itself. You can see the highlighted glow from whatever that light source is, and you just kind of keep elevating these bright little tips as you're going through this process. These light tips on the edges are what's going to make these wings look like they're glowing from behind. And then once you've got that done, we're actually going to use our large brush for the next step. So you can, this looks so pretty. I like painting wings. So once you've got this done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our clouds. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are white, lavender, and light yellow. And if you feel like you want to go into any other colors, feel free to do so. So how I'm going to do this is I really want it to be the brightest as it's kind of meeting the horse and on the top edge of these clouds that are going to be that the horse is kind of emerging through. So that's where I'm going to be using the most white. But as I move my way away from that area, or the edges that are kind of leaning towards the light source, I'll be using more of my lavender color and a little bit of that light yellow color just to add more depth to the clouds, and then make them darker and darker as they go down towards the bottom of the canvas. If there's any areas that you feel that you want lighter or darker than I'm going to do, feel free to do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of white paint on my brush. So not a lot. This is also the time where we get to hide the bottom of our horse's feet. You can put clouds going in front of anything. I might have a couple kind of drifting in front of my wings if I feeling fancy, but I'm just starting with a little bit of white paint to give myself kind of a footprint as to what I really want to do with this. So I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm coming down and covering the bottom of the horse's feet, and then I'm just going to kind of allow myself to let this white dissipate and kind of give myself this fluffiness or airiness around it. So I use a little bit of white paint and then I rub it out so I can have some kind of brighter spots, and then as it's rubbing out, or it takes on like more of a fading type of effect. I'm going to make it look a little bit more soft in a second, but right now I'm just kind of letting myself go with feeling where I want to put the bright white areas, and then I'll get it to blend out with some more colors. So again, just a little bit of white paint on my brush right now. Maybe I'll have some nice ones coming up in through here. I'm lightly just tapping my canvas right now. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm really just using the tip of my brush to kind of tap in some brighter white areas. And that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to start picking up some of my lavender right now with white on my brush. And again, not much, just proceed with caution, so that way you can kind of work your visual preferences as you go through the process. You can always add more. Sometimes it's tough to reverse something if you did it too bold. So right now I've just got my lavender plus a little bit of white on my brush, and this is kind of allowing me to get these different light spots and dark spots throughout the clouds, and break up some of those bright areas. If you're going through this and you say, oh, well, that was just too much all white in through there, break it up. If you want to have some lighter or some more airiness to it, bringing some of that lavender plus the white in between those lighter bright spots will help to give that illusion. And then you can even bring some up on the sides. You can bring some in front of your wing if you want to. I'm just using kind of a circular scrubbing type of brush stroke. I'll bring some more brightness or some more white into it in a minute, but right now I'm just allowing myself to to create this fluffiness down at the bottom of the canvas. I'm picking up more of my lavender now. I stopped picking up the white, just the lavender right now to get this bottom area fully painted with the fluffiness, my technical term for my clouds, my fluffiness. And then once I've got that on there, now I can start incorporating and finessing it a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light yellow, and I'm going to put maybe a little bit more of that over in through here. So maybe the clouds, I didn't wash my brush either. Maybe the clouds are getting a little bit of a glow from that light source. So feel free to incorporate that. I'm picking up some white. So at this point, I'm going to start alternating my light yellow, white, and lavender in order to finesse these clouds into feeling nice and airy. And I'm just going through them saying, I think I want a little bit more brightness in through here, so I picked up a little bit more white. If I want a little bit more of the yellow to show up, I'll put a little bit more of the yellow on my brush. And again, not a lot of paint. I'm actually just going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel, and then I just kind of keep finessing it. I think I want a little more fluffiness over these legs. Like I want it to appear that the horse is running through the clouds, so I'm just adding a faint layer of the airiness from the clouds over parts of these legs. So that's going to add to the illusion of the horse running through the clouds. And I just kind of keep maneuvering my brush where I want the light spots and the dark spots, thinking that that's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more of the white on some of these. So maybe just a little bit more white to just give these edges, the clouds, a little bit more brightness and just airiness. I think I want a little bit more over into here too. I just really want it to look like nice and fluffy as it's kind of, as the horse is coming through. So I just kind of keep manipulating my light spots and my dark spots. A little bit more white, a little bit more lavender. If I feel I want it to go darker, or if I want more dark pockets, I could certainly add some more of my lavender, the darkest version, you know, not with white on my brush, and that would help to make the bottom edges recede. But that's looking pretty good to me. I think I'm picking up a little bit more of my lavender just to make sure that I've got these bottom edges as dark as I want them to be, and that I've got all of this blended in the way that I want. I'm thinking that's pretty good. So I think I'm going to call it, maybe, after I add a little bit more white in through here, maybe a little bit more yellow, but you can fiddle with yours all you want. Once you have it in the way that is visually appealing for you, we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. So you can put this large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to be using my small brush. I think I'm going to go bottom right on this one, and I'm going to sign it with white paint. You could certainly sign yours on the left or the right, whatever color you want. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol or whatever makes you happy and is your identifying mark is totally fine. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very angelic style painting, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.